Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the December 17th, 2024 Select Board meeting. Before we begin, I want to point out that this meeting is being recorded and it will be rebroadcast by Canton Community TV at a later date. Unfortunately, Chris Albert will not be able to join us tonight, so we're going to get through this sans Select Board Clerk. So the first item on the agenda is our public comment period. And as I do each meeting before the public comment, I read the same statement. So the public comment portion of the meeting is an opportunity to listen to residents' feedback and concerns. But the public comment portion of the meeting is not meant to be a question and answer format. There will be no response to any public comment when presented. The public comment portion of the meeting is limited to 15 minutes total and up to 3 minutes per speaker. Those that wish to speak should have their first and last name displayed. I will not call on participants with incomplete or inappropriate names. Anyone who does not wish to speak or who was unable to speak due to the time limit may submit their comments in writing for the board's review and consideration. All right. With that being said, we will start public comment at 7:02. And I see Ms. Sweeney has her hand up. So Ms. Sweeney, give us just a minute. Can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Okay. Brenda Sweeney, my humble opinion. I'd like to start by asking if the board could appear to pay attention during public comments. Many people often comment on the lack of respect you show the citizens during this time. Thank you. I appreciate your efforts. Next, a poem about Canton. 'Twas the night before Christmas when all through the town not a feather was stirring, not even a down. The ducklings were nestled all snug in their beds, while visions of worms slowly danced in their heads. The straw was packed, and safe we did feel such relief in our hearts we knew we would heal. When out on the lawn there arose such a clatter, I sprang from the hay to see what was the matter. Away to the pond I flew like a flash, the citizens were there to throw us a bash. To the people's delight, the ducks have the right, Canton Center's our home, we don't have to roam. Now Richie stood tall and proud for us all, a brave face to the court he did proudly comport. This battle he fought and safely he brought, for his fine feathered friends a great message it sends. The judge set us free, and so we were glad. Through all of this clatter, our rights they do matter. He spoke a few words, and straight to this work he filled all our hearts, then turned to the clerk. The judge in his robe, broad straight was his spine. He pulled out his pen, and there he did sign. By giving a nod and pounding his gavel, to Canton our home at last we could travel. For we citizens of Canton, too bad for our pain, all 36 pages tax dollars did drain. A travesty this board, its total inaction, its honor is lost by more than a fraction. Bad intentions be gone, no longer your pawn, treat all people the same, our freedom's no game. Now it's time for our leaders to loudly exclaim, this rampant abuse they shall finally tame. When there's peace in the town, you won't see a frown, 'tis time for relief, bring us a new chief. As Canton pride is restored, our hearts will afford that regard you desire, lead us out of this mire. We'll spring to our sleigh with great joy on display, so bright be the light when you manage this plight. Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night. Now is the time to set the town right. That ends the poem, and now it's time to start a search for a new police chief. We're a laughing stock. This fiasco of an investigation with a 36-page report for rubber ducks is enough to prove it's time for change, not to mention the tremendous amount of tax dollars down the drain for 2-inch rubber ducks, all because she could. Otherwise, we have to ask who's next on her list, Mr. Loughran. You insisted on this, Chief, and now it's time to do the right thing. Hold your head high and put Canton on the right path again by starting this search. In closing, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, or whatever holiday it is you celebrate. Take care and be safe. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Ms. Sweeney. All right. Next, I see Ms. Lombardi has her hand up. Give us a second, Ms. Lombardi. Can you hear us?
I can.
And we can hear you.
Okay. When I spoke during public comments at the last meeting, I complimented the committee chair of the Galvin Middle School rebuild project for a job well done. As someone with significant project management experience, I sincerely appreciated the monumental effort it took to put together, present, and gain approval for this $242 million middle school reconstruction project. To witness the overwhelming approval at the special town meeting was truly inspiring. It gave me hope for a better future for our town and children. It felt like we were beginning to turn the corner in what has likely been the most challenging times in the history of Canton. The committee chair, the entire committee, and anyone who supported the efforts deserves recognition, whether people supported the project or not. I want to be very clear. My show of appreciation for the chair's effort with the Galvin Middle School project did not mean I also approved of his performance as chair of the Police Audit Committee. I did not. I expected more from him. I expected much more from him. He simply did not deliver the same kind of performance or results. As chair of the Police Audit Committee, I expected him to lead with respect for his constituents, to be open-minded and productively guide the discussion. I expected him to maintain control of the meeting, not by browbeating people who disagreed with him, but by conducting himself in a professional manner. During the last open meeting of the audit meeting held at the tavern, Jan Chamberlain, former principal and teacher at the JFK school, reminded the chair that his behavior on the audit committee was inconsistent with his behavior on other committees and that he was capable of doing much better. Jan asked him to do much better, as only a school principal could do. It was Jan's words that led me to believe that he could do better if he wanted to. The most effective way to gain improved performance is to recognize the behavior that you would like repeated. That was my goal. The last audit meeting was late October. During that meeting, the committee voted unanimously to appoint Dave Clow as the key contact person for Five Stones. Shortly thereafter, I received an email advising me that the audit committee had been disbanded and inviting me to join other committees. Since that time, the kickoff meeting did not include the audit committee. It included people that were supposed to have nothing to do with the committee. I am asking that the chair of the committee and the leadership of this town ensure that they deliver the same performance that has been done so with the Galvin Middle School. If we do not deliver the same performance, the objective of the audit was to restore trust in our community and make people feel safe again. If the objective is just to check off a to-do list item, then that can be done. I feel like we're in a black hole right now, and we have not seen the audit committee. I was advised that they were disbanded. And
Ms. Lombardi, unfortunately, your time is up. If you want to send the rest of that portion to the select board, we're happy to read that and take it under advisement. All right. Seeing nobody else for public comment, we will go right to the agenda. And the first item on the agenda is an acceptance of deed of parcels associated with 777 Dedham Street, donated to the Conservation Commission as conservation land. So we have our conservation agent, Regan Jameson, with us. I believe she's with us. Did I see her?
Yep, can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Okay, great.
All right. So you wanted just give us a quick overview of what this is. I mean, I remember it from the original agreement, but
Yeah, so the the Top Golf project is almost done as far as we're concerned. 6 or 7 years later. It was, since my coming on board, it was always part of the project that there were 2 parcels that were to be donated. And then there was a traffic light easement that I believe came to the town as well. So they, like 2 or 3 years ago, they donated the first parcel, which if you're looking out from the bays in Top Golf, is on the other side of the train tracks. And now this one is closer, and for whatever reason, Topgolf wanted to do this as a separate donation. So the Conservation Commission voted to accept the donation at its last meeting, and now to have it go through, we need the select board to also agree.
all right. Do we have any questions for our conservation agent? All right. So if there are no questions, I would entertain a motion that the select board execute the attached Town of Canton Select Board acceptance and approval of grant of property authorizing the Town of Canton Conservation Commission pursuant to Chapter 40, Section 8C, to hereby accept and receive the conveyance by a certain deed dated from Mass Canton Dedham LLC of Lot 2, as shown on the plan referenced herein, to be held and maintained under the care, custody, and control of the Town of Canton Conservation Commission for conservation purposes, as such purposes are commonly used and maintained for conservation purposes in the Town of Canton or the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, specifically the lot labeled as AP 22 Lot 2, known as Parcel 2, on a plan entitled ALTA/NSPS Land Title Survey 777 Dedham Street, Topgolf, Assessors Plat 22 Lot 2, and Assessors Plat 33 Lots 4 and 5, Canton, Massachusetts, dated October 18, 2023, prepared by Dupree Engineering.
So moved.
Motion has been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And we'll do a roll call vote. Ms. Boyden,
Yes.
Mr. Conley,
Yes.
Mr. McCourt,
Yes.
and the chair as well, 4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Next on the agenda are municipal capital request review. So tonight we have the building department, our IT department, central maintenance, the Revere and Son Heritage Trust, as well as the library. So just going in the order that they were written on the agenda, we'll go with Mr. Walsh from the building department first. Here you are, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman.
How are you, sir?
We all set?
We are all set.
Okay, good evening. Thank you for the time. Thank you to the board for the time tonight. I'd like to make my third capital request in the last 22 years to purchase a new 2025 Ford Maverick hybrid pickup. We need it to replace the current 2016 Ford Explorer. The Ford Explorer will be 9 years old this summer. And this has always been the practice since I got here, that we replaced the 98 Taurus with an 08 Ranger, replaced the 08 Ranger with the 16 Explorer. So we're right in that 8 to 10 year window. The cost of the hybrid vehicle is $35,000. We're stating $40,000 because the price will only go up come July 1. The current Explorer has 67,000 miles on it, which isn't too much, but it's all local miles. It was out of service for 4 months in 2022 after a slight accident that required $13,000 in repairs. It's been having some tire sensor issues lately, and it will probably need some exhaust pipes repaired in the near future. The plan hopefully is to have the Explorer is in good enough shape that another department might be able to use it. The problem with sustaining it in the building department is that we need a dependable vehicle. We're usually not called out for emergencies during nice weather. On several occasions over the years, we've had to follow the fire department to several calls. We get homes getting whacked with trees. We arrive, the fire department takes off to the next house being hit. One example of that even was in the winter of 15. I think the building department had 17 calls in 21 days from the fire chief back then, who we'll avoid. We won't name in that case. But we don't need a full-size pickup truck or full-size SUV. They're more of a nuisance on a job site. And why waste the money if they're only going to be more of a nuisance and more susceptible to getting whacked? The Maverick still provides enough space to carry unnecessary equipment if something does happen. We looked into the hybrid Explorers, and those were up around 43 to 57,000. So we're saving money that way. And they also do not anticipate the hybrids being readily available. The municipal departments, they're going to keep them mostly for the police departments throughout the country. And if that's the case, if they're not manufacturing a lot of them, it's going to be an issue with parts. The Maverick, it's 4-wheel drive hybrid. and less expensive. So hopefully we'll be able to take care of it this year and stay in the target that we have done on the previous vehicles we've purchased. Any questions from the board?
Well, you certainly said a lot of keywords there that, affordable, and you've only asked us for a few things over the 20 years, so.
We have a high budget.
Yeah. Mr. Conley?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, through you to the building commissioner. You had just said it, but I just want to clarify it. It is all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive for the winter?
Yes, it's all-wheel drive.
Okay, great. That's what I want to make sure it was. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for our building commissioner? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next, why don't we go to our IT director, Louis Jutras. He's doing double duty as he runs this meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. We have for next year's request 3 items in total. And one of them, based on a vote that the board did for some supplemental ARPA funds, we'll look to reallocate, and I'll touch upon that. The first item is an item that we normally have every single year. We have over 300 desktop or tablet computers used by various departments and boards and committees. And so the first request that we have is for $69,000 to go ahead and have allocation to replace somewhere between 45 or 55 individual systems, desktops, peripherals, printers, and the like. We are, in a window right now where we have a large number of machines that need to be replaced due to the Windows operating system going end of life next October. So in total, we have over 140 machines to take care of that, aspect. This is only a portion of that. But again, what we can handle and allocate into the budget and request for a certain year. So first item is $69,000.
Okay.
The second item, again, was submitted as replacements to 2 video recorders, 2 different areas within Public Works and the Water Department. As I mentioned earlier, in a previous meeting, the board went ahead and we reallocated some ARPA funds to go ahead and replace those. That contract has been successfully awarded, so those are already on order. So we have this $11,200 request that we could look to reallocate to the computers to get us a little further down the road. Or if there is another, more suitable use for the board, that could get reallocated to something else. But right now, we do not have to replace those 2 systems, and we do have them in the works due to other funds. And then the last item that we have is a replacement for physical copiers. We have units at the fire department, elder and human services, as well as the police department. They, range in years from 8 to 10 years. Some of them are no longer able to be supported. We cannot renew the contracts for yearly maintenance. And so that is, requiring us to do that update. And then there is one new request for the assessing department. They do a lot with regard to maps and colors and their large format size of 1117. And we've been trying to work that into the budget and request and find a suitable unit for it. So this price request for those 4 systems in total is $15,525. And again, replacing 3 existing and adding 1 new. Keep them all the same function features and adding additional functions that some departments do not have. So those are the 3 requests. Happy to field any questions that the board might have.
All right. We have any questions for our IT director?
Chair, through you. Hi, Louis. Quickie question. So did the video recorders get replaced in the Sally Port and in the town hall, the 2 that were messed up? Remember, I spoke with you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the video recorder itself. No, this is at the Public Works garage and
No, I
at-
know where these
yeah,
2 are. I
yeah.
can see.
No, the locations that we have, the camera was physically replaced. Nothing with the recorder.
Okay, so that was all resolved.
Yes, we replaced the camera that had the line video that was failing
Okay.
because of the cold and location.
All right.
Yep.
And same as at the town hall too, because you said there were two of them that had the same situation.
The other one that you're speaking of is a inverted scenario,
Yeah.
and that's one that points to an elevator.
Yeah,
But yes.
it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
All
Well,
right.
again, it's physically there, and yes, we have replaced the other cameras.
All right. Thank you.
Any other questions for Louis? All right, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
All right. We have Brian Lynch, Facilities Director for the town.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. How are you?
Very well. How are you?
Good, thank you. Good evening, board members. Brian Lynch, Director of Facilities for the town, as Mike just said. And I'm just here to read off to you my request for capital for central maintenance. We're looking to replace the fire FD1. They have one boiler there. It's 20 years old. We've already replaced a few sections on it over the years, not in my time. And we're noticing a lot of soot coming out of the bottom of it. So that means there's some cracking going on in some of the other sections. So we're hoping to get through one more winter with that boiler. And so we're asking for $350,000 to replace that boiler at FD1. Number 2 on the list is the senior center HVAC replacement of 2 rooftop units. I know there's been some talk about this going on for a few years now. It's just such an oversized, I think it's a 15-ton unit that's up there now. And we would like to replace that with a 12-ton unit. And I know Diane, that works there, was having quite a bit of trouble, but we had a couple of companies come out and do some work on that front end to help that be more productive, and it works. It's been working a lot better for the AC in the summer and the heat so far this winter. So that's a second project for $383 or $93,000.
And Brian, that
Yes,
would
sir.
also help because that's a cooling center for the town as well, right?
Yes, it is, Mike.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. And then we're looking to replace at the police department, the Medisys building automation system. So it's like almost like a Johnson control system, which actually you have to call in somebody from Johnson to fix things and work on the computer and things like that. We're trying to get away from that and go back and put in like a Niagara BAS system, which we have in most of our other buildings. That we were using in the school department for years too, which is simple for us, like an HVAC mechanic, to utilize and make sure they can work on things with set points and occupancy schedules and all those types of things. So it would just make the building work a lot better. I know Capital just gave us $17,000 last year to balance the building. So now that all the zones are working well together, the building's really working much better. So now if we had a front end system that would control it, I think that would help the complete system at the police station. And that cost is $53,000, $53,920. The next one on the list, number 4, is phase 2 of the town hall carpeting replacement. Most of the carpeting in that building's 20 plus years old. If you saw some of the work that was done this past, I'm going to say like August and September, we had the installers come in and replace in a few of the offices on the first floor. We'd like to see if we can come back and finish the complete first floor and then go downstairs and start doing like Trotta's office, building department's office, engineering and stuff like that. And then we'll save phase 3 for next year probably and start working on the 3rd floor. And the cost of that is $49,000. And then item number 5 is more like the chimney at Peakwood side over the tavern there. There's a lot of bricks that have been falling off that chimney, so it needs to be repointed and flashed, like a flashing detail done on it. And then we noticed in the basement, a lot of the foundation field stone, there's a lot of separation there. So, mice and everything else are getting right in there. So I had a contractor come out and get us a price for the police station also, because the interior of their basement walls were all deteriorated. So we got a price of, I believe it's $40,000 to do both Peakwood side and the police station with the same contractor. Or, we'd have to bid it, of course, but they think it's going to be around $40,000 for, so that's both foundations at the police and Peakwood side, and the cap for the chimney and repointing of the chimney over the tavern.
Okay.
And those are the 5 items I had. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer anything.
Just a quick question on the Niagara system.
Yeah.
Brian, are you anticipating additional cost, implementing, basically changing over from one system to the other, or is that going to be absorbed in your central maintenance budget?
It'll be absorbed in my central maintenance budget.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Lawler.
Any other questions for Mr. Lynch? All right. Very good. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for your time tonight, and I appreciate you letting me speak about the projects. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next, let's go to the Revere and Son Heritage Trust. I think we have Mr. Alan Hines.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Great. First, I'd like to start by wishing the board a happy holiday. Probably won't see everybody until after the beginning of the year. So thank you for everything you've done and wish you all a happy holiday. Tonight, I'd like to explain the 2 capital requests that the Revere and Son Heritage Trust has requested. The first is for an office build out. As you know, we are proceeding very rapidly to create the exhibits that will make the museum over the next 12 months. And hopefully next year, this time we'll be announcing our grand opening. To move forward, we're going to need a director for the museum, and that director will need office space. We've identified a couple of potential areas, one in Copper Mill Hall and one in the barn, to create an office. We had a contractor look at what the cost to construct some walls to create a formidable office space. That was about $14,000 to $15,000. And we will need office furnishings, IT, computers. So our ask for that is $29,700 for office space for a new director. Any questions on that one before I move on? All right. Our next,
Alan, hold up.
question.
Hold up. Mr. Conley has a question.
Go on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Hines, has the BRC been involved with the, you said a contractor came in, but I'd rather have, the BRC should be involved in, or the building commissioner. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, we can't build anything until we get funding for it. So this was just scoping out potential office.
Yeah, but how did you come up with the price, Alan?
We had a contractor get an estimate of what it would be to again, we had to come up with an ask at this point. We're not moving forward with any building at this point, but we thought the ask was a reasonable range. And to the extent that we needed more monies to actually build office space, we could also incorporate that within the museum design. But we're not moving forward with any.
No, but we gotta get pricing with prevailing wage. It's a lot different. If you bring someone in off the street, they're not familiar with the prevailing wage. We had that problem on other projects throughout the town. I just want to make sure we don't make us mistakes like we have in the past. And I just want to make sure that
I will double check that.
The BRC has to be involved. And
okay.
So the building commissioner.
We will double check our numbers.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Appreciate the heads up, John. But I do. One of our board members was familiar with the project, and I got the quote for us as a starting point, and so I think we're all set. But I will make sure I double check that and confirm with the money, because I just heard Lewis has a couple extra dollars left over. If it does go higher, we'll come back. But we're pretty comfortable with the ask that we put in for.
Have you shown the quote to anybody, Alan?
No.
Can we see that?
Oh yeah. Well, that was part of the package that I sent into Randy as part of our Form Form D.
But the BFC should be involved and
Yep.
other building commissioner. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
you.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right. The second ask is identified as pavilion accessories, but during our discussion with Randy and town administrator, it came up is if the pavilion doesn't get approved, as you know, one of our asks this year, last year we went to the community preservation act to put a pavilion around the site of the where the old foundation for the barn was. Last year it did not make it through the process. This year it was approved or not approved, but it was accepted and is moving forward. But this ask, even though ideally this will the equipment that we're asking for here will find its way underneath the pavilion. The only item within our ask here that is really dependent on having the pavilion is some side panels. But what we've heard from the residents who use the park is that we really need to have a place to be able to enjoy rest, have a lunch there. So our request includes about $12,000 worth of picnic tables, some more park benches that are semi-permanent. I mean, we've looked into getting some really quality things that can't be taken away or subject to vandalism. And the third item on our list is a portable serving station. Whether, again, we have a pavilion where we're going to be able to do some activities associated with the museum, or just on the terrace, having a portable serving station, I think, is an important thing to have for additional functions. And then lastly is some trash receptacles. And again, assuming that the pavilion goes through, we would want retractable side panels that would be able to lift up and make it a little more water resistant if somebody was having some type of event. Or, we foresee that once the museum is up and running, we are going to be reaching out to school districts and hoping that they're going to bring their students on a half a day field trip, visit the museum, have lunch out on the pavilion or on the terrace. So these items I think are not only would make the park a lot more user friendly to the residents that use it, but also facilitate other programs that we're foreseeing the museum to have. That total ask is about $37,950 is our two, and both these are cash capital requests. Any questions on that one?
So, Alan, it's like the chicken before the egg, because if capital approves this, it'll go to town meeting and could conceivably get voted before the community preservation article comes up, and therefore it could almost feel like somebody's obligated to support the community preservation that maybe had a question. You know what I mean?
Right. I would like to rename this gap, because if you listen to what they asked, the picnic tables, the bench, the portable serving tables, none of those are really related. There's 9,500 side panels that are related to the pavilion if it does go through. And again, if it doesn't go through, we could either reimburse, not use that capital ask, or repurpose it to more seating or benches. But so I don't think so. I would just call this further outdoor seating and community accessories.
Okay, that would make it just.
I agree. That was because that question came to me, and I during our first round of discussions, and I said whether or not the pavilion actually gets approved, we need these items to continue having future events and to really make this public space a lot more. People walk up there with their children all the time. They want to be able to sit down and have a lunch or these items are needed for, passive use.
Yep, yep. And the only other thing that I wanted to ask, when you mentioned more trash receptacles, which obviously I think that is a need, have you talked to Parks and Rec or DPW just to let them know? Because right now they're responsible for emptying them. So you just to give them a heads up, like, hey, we're going to add some more, so that they can appropriately, staff plan or what have you.
Absolutely. Again, we're just
Yeah,
starting
no, I
this
know.
process.
Yeah.
We would think that would be coming, in about 12 months from now. But I don't know if you're aware of this, but we now have our own dumpster there. So we have the ability to kind of do some of those things. But good point. We'll put that on our next agenda item for our next board meeting.
Excellent. Excellent. All right. Any other questions for Mr. Hines? All right. Alan, same to you. Merry Christmas to you and your family. Happy New Year. We'll talk soon.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. All right. And then last but certainly not least, we have our library director, Ms. Capone.
Hi,
There she
everybody.
is. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you so much for having me here. I believe we have some library trustees in the audience and can't see them, but thank you for coming. I'm here to talk to you tonight about the library's capital requests. We have 2 items. I'd like to talk to you about the second one first. That is for a $30,000 request to install a lactation nursing parent pod at the library. This will help us fill a lot of needs here at the library. We intend, if we're successful in getting funding, we intend to put this down accessible to the children's library. We need a place in the building where people can safely feed their children comfortably without video cameras. And we have quite a few video cameras here in the library to keep us all safe. But that does sort of prevent people that require a little bit of privacy in a quiet space to maybe calm down a crying baby or feed them. And so we're looking to put in sort of a pod where people can wheel a wheelchair or a stroller directly in. They can shut a door and have some measure of privacy. And we also are looking at this product because it allows us control over that space. This product will enable people, adults with young children, to come to the desk and receive a code that goes right to their phone, and then they'll just walk up to the lock and it'll unlock the code for the door. That way we'll know who's going in and out, and there won't be anything going on in there. It's in response to needs from the community that we are looking to put this service here at the library. And also the models that we're looking at are on the state contract. And if you'd like to go and visit them, these exact models are being installed in libraries across the state. I believe there's one in Westwood. There's one perhaps in Quincy. And then I know like the Brockton Courthouse and lots of other courthouses have them. So you'll see them in other public places, especially in places like libraries that maybe were built before this was sort of a concern for people. So that is our first request. We are looking for $30,000 so that we can get, a handicap accessible pod. But the beautiful thing about that is I went through this with my own kids. We had kids that were still in a stroller, and then we had one we had to feed. What do? You want one that's big enough that you can roll your stroller in. So that's the idea behind it. Did you have any questions about this purchase for the library?
So, Andrea, I had a quick question. Why not just a generic ADA bathroom, a family bathroom, with the changing table and stuff like that? And,
Yeah, so
Jen,
We
I
have-
understand any.
Yeah. No, we have an ADA accessible bathroom we have two of them in the children's room, and they have the changing tables in there.
Yeah,
The thing is, Mike, when little ones are going potty, they need that room right
yeah,
away.
yeah,
And
yeah.
we can't have a mom in there for 35, 40 minutes doing her thing and tying up a bathroom. And then
Okay.
also, for lots of reasons, when parents have to express breast milk, they need a sterile or clean environment. And a bathroom is really not an acceptable place to feed or do that type of stuff.
Yep.
And that's all.
Nope, that's plenty. Just when I saw the request, that was the first thing that came to my mind, and obviously I know I don't know.
Well, when
enough.
somebody's doing the pee-pee dance and we can't let them in that bathroom
Yep,
because mom's
yep.
doing her thing. Nope, doesn't
Nope,
work.
perfectly understandable. Any other questions for Andrea on item 1, which is really item 2? All right. Next, Andrea.
All right, so the next request is the library interior repair, and it is to be determined. Right now, the library is working with a cost estimator to find a number to present for town meeting in May. And because we are in that process, just like last year when we came to you and we had to approve the roof, we didn't have a number at that point because they were still cost estimating. That's the space we're in now. So I have a placeholder just in there of to be determined. And we are looking to fund this project perhaps in 2 phases, or there's work that the designers will be doing that the BRC has had a lot of involvement in. The library trustees and our design committee have been working hard on our end to really push this project forward. I believe you might have seen some of our library trustees handing out brick flyers at town meeting for the new middle school. They have sold to date over 200 individual bricks to fundraise for this project. And we see a lot of community support for the repair work that is necessary to fix the years of leaking from the roof. So we're hoping that we can put the library back together, not just fix it and put it back exactly the same, but fix it and put it back in a way that works for today's library user and not 25 years ago when we built the place.
Right. All right. Mr. McCourt, I was going to ask you anyway, so go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you. We had a meeting today, the VRC, with the library group. The construction is going very good up there. The roofing has basically begun to start. The rest of the scaffolding should be away from the front of the building the end of the week. So a lot of the progress is made. We have a January completion date. Of course, the weather is a big factor on that. But speaking on what Andrea's, which is the next phase of the library, we've been working with a design team. As you all know, we hired a design team to get us to schematic design, construction documents, and estimates for the next part of the library. And it deals with multiple areas of the library that have been affected over the years. With that said, as of today, we have 100% of the schematic design, which is basically the overall layout, what we want to do inside the library, but it doesn't have all the construction details to it, but it's enough to get our first estimate as to what we think this is going to cost. And that is forthcoming. They're working on that estimate now. We hope to have that within a week. And then we also have a meeting with the trustees. Randy, myself, and Charlie will be there to go over the actual implementation of the project as to phase it out and how we can do that to make it comfortable to get this project completed in a timely manner and affordable to the town. So that's all in progress. Many hours has been spent on the design team. We're trying to get our OPM on board now for the second phase. The OPM is a critical point to get them on board to make sure we're, you know, dotting our i's and crossing our t's like we always do. So that's my update. And the next time Andrew is in front of us, we should have some good numbers, hopefully. And so that will be prepared for town meeting.
Okay.
That's, unless you have any questions for me, Mike, I can answer anything else.
No, I mean, that was going to be my question. When does the TBD turn into a ballpark number that we can, you know,
Yeah.
push out? So,
And that's the big question. We're working on it real quick to get that done.
yep. All right. Thank you both for your
Trish,
work on
did
that.
you have a
Ms.
question?
Boyden? Yep.
Yeah, I can lower my hand now. Okay, so you guys are on the same page, right? Because it would be good to have the BRC, like John just said too, regarding Revere Heritage. It'd be good to all be on the same page. So because it sounded more vague, Andrew, when you were talking about it, but you guys do have a plan, and BRC will be helping, and or maybe eventually central maintenance too will be managing that. Because boy, that would be nice
Yeah,
for you not to have to deal with that.
The BRC's got the handle on the library project now, which is going fine. It's doing well. The work has been excellent. Contract has been very good. And going back to what John said, the BRC is vital in getting these projects done. If there's a project for a community building, we should be involved, because what happens is people throw numbers out. And we don't like to just have a number. We like to get an estimate, figure it from a professional. And there's a stages that we have to do that we as the BRC always like to do, so that when we come to the town with a project, we don't develop the project comes to us, then we go implement the project. And what we need to do that is make sure we have enough money in the bag before we start anything. So John's absolutely right. And we try real hard to get these projects on time and on budget. And we got a pretty good track record. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Ms. Capone?
No, thank you.
All right. Andrea, thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thank you. Merry Christmas. Bye, guys.
Merry
Happy
Christmas
New
to you
Year.
as well.
Bye.
We'll talk soon.
Thanks.
All right. Next on the agenda is a follow-up discussion on the Sustainability Climate Action Plan. So we have Mr. Birmingham joining us again. And just to remind everybody, he made a presentation at our last select board meeting. Mr. Conley, I don't think you were here for that meeting, but we had a homework assignment to make sure that we went through the presentation and came up with any questions that we might have for Mr. Birmingham. And so he is gracious enough to have come back for this. So how are you, sir?
Good evening, Mr. Chair,
Good evening.
members of the Select Board. Thank you for your time this evening once again. Mr. Chair, with your permission, I would like to share my slide deck.
Yep, please do.
Bear with me one sec. And hopefully this is coming through okay.
Yep.
We do this. Okay. Sounds good. And thank you for the introduction. This is a follow-up from the November 26th meeting that I presented to you all on. So we'll basically update you on some emerging issues that I raised on the 26th of November, and some recommended actions based on a number of follow-up conversations that I've had. And I certainly welcome any questions that you all have as well. I have my last slide is some proposed next steps as well. What I hope you take away from this presentation and the recommended actions that we're going to be proposing, that they are consistent with the 2023 annual town meeting approved Article 27. They reflect the committee's prioritization guidelines that we've been using to help guide our work. And we expect them to unlock significant future funding opportunities and benefits to the town. So here's an overview of the emerging issues. There's 6. I'll go through each of these in order, and I welcome any of your questions as I move through the deck. Okay. So the Energy Sustainability Manager grant application, as I mentioned during the last meeting, there is a really interesting funding opportunity that is going through Mass Save, which is funded through the utilities, National Grid and Eversource. We've got the application deadline of the end of January. It covers 100% of salary and benefits for 3 years up to $120,000. There's no match requirement. I think we can move this on a separate track from the climate action plan, as I'll explain in another couple of slides. That plan will be ready for your review in probably the end of Q1, beginning of Q2. So I would like to try to move forward with this funding opportunity ahead of that. And there is a possibility of doing either co-applications with multiple towns or asking for something less than a full-time staff member to fall under the grant. I just wanted to sort of let you know that I've had a chance to talk to Mr. Scollins and Mr. Duty about this position and help explain any of the questions that they have. And I've also got a meeting scheduled with Director of Human Resources, Ms. Middleton, next week to review the roles and responsibilities of this grant application. And then if everybody's comfortable with this moving forward, I would like to also propose that we meet with Mr. Lynch to help review what this position could do to benefit his responsibilities and get him comfortable with what this position does. In a nutshell, it can help identify funding opportunities to help the town, schools, municipal buildings, identify renewable power opportunities, solar power, ground source heat pumps. A lot of what the Galvin Middle School has in place would be a good example of what we could do for some of the other buildings in town. I think you're probably familiar with the proposal for solar panels on the ice rink as an example. We think we can probably find some money to do that. This position would facilitate that. Open issues, continuing assessing the application requirements and the co-application opportunities. And as the slide shows there, continue to discuss this opportunity with town administrator, planner, HR, and central facilities. So at this time, we are going to vote on this. The committee itself, our next meeting is on Thursday. So what we're going to do is, as a committee, is take a vote on whether this makes sense to move forward to authorize this position subject to grant funding. And then with your permission, move forward with the grant application on the 31st, subject to conversations with HR and central facilities. And then we would reflect some related expenses in the 2026 proposed budget. They're pretty minimal, but I reviewed those with Mr. Scollins, and he thought those were reasonable. Just incremental costs to bring a new staff person into the onto the town payroll. So take a moment to answer any questions, thoughts on that, Mr. Chair.
Sure. So initially for, let me just look at my notes, sorry. So looking at this grant, at least on the Mass Save website, it calls for this position to focus on reducing the greenhouse gas emissions, primarily in the school buildings. So has this been discussed with the schools and the school committee? Because, you know, they have oversight of their buildings and not the town and not Mr. Lynch. I mean, we all work together, but anything related to the schools would need to be approved by the school committee as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good question. Short answer, I have not spoken to the school committee or the superintendent about this particular opportunity. We did talk to the funders, Eversource and National Grid, about this, and I asked a related question, which was based on my read of that same website. And the question was, can we also apply the roles and responsibilities associated with this grant to other municipal buildings? And they said, absolutely. So it's not solely subject to the schools. It is applicable to other municipal buildings. But to your point, what we started looking at, and I've got another meeting scheduled, Mr. Scollins and the state, to look, as you know, the Galvin Middle School, the design includes the electrification and handling of solar panels on the roofs, but we haven't pursued, as far as I know, the actual funding of those solar panels. So this particular position would be in a good position to try to find funding for those solar panels. And obviously we'd need to work with the school committee and the superintendent and the project managers on trying to identify and find funding for that installation. So the plan is to do that, Mr. Chair, but I'm happy to do that before the grant application goes in.
Yeah, if you don't mind, to have a conversation with Superintendent Folin and perhaps a brief presentation to the school committee so that they're aware of this as well.
Sure.
The only other concern that I have, Mr. Birmingham, is just, so if we get this grant and we hire this position, be it a part-time position, a full-time position, a shared position with other towns, and I understand that their goal is going to be to try and find funding and grants available. But are there other costs that would be associated with it? So, just only because you mentioned the ice rink, and not that I think that this is it, because obviously we just rebuilt it, but we get a grant for, strictly as an example only, we get a grant for putting solar panels on the ice rink. But in order to do that, we need to reinforce the roof to support the additional weight. And that cost is not something that was thought of, by this board or perhaps your board ahead of time. And now we're kind of like, we can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. Like we've got the money, we've got the grant. So now the town has to find the money to reinforce that roof. And again, I'm just using that as an example.
Sure. Good news is there's quite a bit of technical assistance available through the state, and there's I'm working through trying to figure out if this is grant related as well. But the idea is that the research that I've done so far is to do exactly what you do it ahead of time.
Okay.
Look at the technical requirements of the proposal and the building infrastructure that's already there, and assess whether or not the building can handle it. And if it can't, what the additional cost would be prior to filing for the grant. So it would be staged, technical assistance grant, potentially, I got to verify that. Then, the energy grant for in this case would be the solar panels. And then we would go out to bid as we've talked about earlier with some of these capital projects being reviewed earlier.
Okay. All right. Any other questions on this particular action item for Mr. Birmingham? So, Mr. McCourt?
Yeah, Tom, thanks for coming tonight and happy holidays. Question on if this grant gets approved and we have that funding, who would the individual be working for? The town of Canton, or who would be paying him directly?
Yeah. I've talked to Charlie about it, and the position itself, if it gets approved, would most likely report through him. It would be a town employee paid for by the grant, and both the salary and the benefits associated with that. And that's a key question to verify with HR Director Middleton as well.
Yeah, because I'd be curious how that works with a 3-year pension, all that stuff, because if it's a full-time employee. I can, Charlie, you can chime in, but I'm just curious about that. And the second question I had is, where would this person be operating out of, and what would he or she need via office space, computers, phones? I mean, is there funding for those items, or is that something that the town's going to have to find?
In the budget that I reviewed, Mr. Scollins and Mr. Duty, We've got, I think off the top of my head, about an incremental $10,000 for these ancillary related costs, computer, telephone postage. There's some community outreach dollars that we've identified, some potential, conference attendance, those kinds of things, totals up to about $10,000. I'll show you at the end of the presentation, but we've got roughly a $200,000 proposed budget, which includes the funding through the grants for 2020, fiscal year 2026, and roughly around 30,000 of that would be related for the town-related expenses. The balance of that 200,000 would be covered by the 2 grants that we'll review tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Conley?
Yes, thank you. Through you to Mr. Birmingham. Thank you, Tom. I appreciate it. Thank you. 2 quick questions. I'm concerned about if this person after 3 years, the money dries up. I just want to make sure that who's responsible for the unemployment and the other associated, the person being laid off. That's a concern of mine. That's not one concern. So I don't know if you've thought about that, if make sure that it's on the table that if the person gets laid off. So who would be that would be responsible for paying that?
Sure. Mr. Chair, would you like me to address that one first?
Please.
Sounds like Mr. Connolly has more than one though. So the hope is, Mr. Connolly, that we can demonstrate the value of this position over the 3 years and that the position pays for itself with the generation of all these different grants that we've been talking about. As part of the application is this question. So the state itself and the funders want to know what happens after 3 years.
Exactly.
So we're looking ahead to that. And the short answer is we hope we can demonstrate that this position is, self-funding in the sense that it's offsetting lots of other expenses. And I do think at this point, based on my visibility down the line, this position will pay for itself and then some for sure.
And that's fine, but I'm just concerned that if the state says we're not paying for it, then the town would be on the hook. And I think the people need to know that.
Yes.
And I just want to make sure that it's on the table.
Yes.
And my next question, if I may, Mr. Chairman, just remember, we don't own the ice rink. The DCR does.
Okay.
And I'm very concerned. I'm not going to go through February 28th, 2015. It was a day that was a nightmare. And I'm very concerned about putting anything on that roof at the rink.
Okay.
Okay, I'm very concerned about doing anything. Because the DCR, what we had to do to get that rink rebuilt, the DCR had no intentions of rebuilding that. And with help from our state senator, Timothy, and Representative Galvin, and a lot of other people, we got it rebuilt at a cost of under $1 million to the taxpayers of this town, a $10 million rink. So I'm concerned about, we have to get their permission because we have a 30-year lease, which was unheard of. But that's one of the negotiations that we're going to pay this money, and most of it came through Kathy Butters and FIFA or Mima, and she did a fantastic job in our insurance because we insure the building. So I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. That we got to go through the DCR. Okay, I'm just worried about that. And as I said, February 28th, we all know what happened. February 28th, 2015, the rink collapsed. So, okay.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Connolly.
Thank you. Thanks, Tom.
Noted, and that was just an example. We'd have a lot of work to do before we got to that point, but I appreciate you bringing that up.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
All right. Next item, Mr. Birmingham.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This one's pretty quick. The last time we spoke, we were seeking your approval to move forward with the 2.0 grant application, MVP 2.0 grant application. We talked to Mr. Duty and the town planner, and we got everybody comfortable that we made the deadline, and they actually extended the filing deadline an extra 2 weeks. So we have submitted that application for funding for the MVP 2.0 grant, and we'll keep you posted. We should know, probably by the end of January, middle of February, if we qualify.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. Last time we chatted a little bit about this climate action plan. This is what the committee's really driving for, our deliverable. It was one of the 3 requirements coming out of town meeting. We expect the plan to be available, ready for your review end of Q1 2025. And then we'll go through comment period and then for final review and select board approval somewhere in the early Q2 time period. Prior to town meeting would be my goal. And that will include recommended actions, funding requirements, and sources for funding and the timeline. And let's see. Benefit building our capacity more efficiently, effectively address climate change. Open issue we're drafting the report, covered the 20 Q2. A big part of this, just to highlight, is this idea of a climate leader community certification. A little bit of a mouthful, but it's basically, if you're familiar with Green Communities program, which Canton is part of, that qualifies us for different funding opportunities. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the HVAC system within Town Hall was paid for in part by that grant. And so the state's moving to what's called essentially Green Communities 2.0. And that is what this Green Leader Community Certification is all about. And it is, it comes with 6 total requirements in order to get certified, one of which requires a committee that we're already doing. It requires you to be a community in good standing, a green community in good standing. And then there's one of the 6 is to get the town to approve this, what's called the Specialized Stretch Building Code. And I've got a slide for that in a minute. And that's the one of the 6 that requires annual town meeting approval. And I'll give you a quick overview of what that is. But this is the big umbrella associated with the Climate Leader Community Certification, which is going to be under the Climate Action Plan. So you can think of like the Russian doll idea. The outside doll is the Climate Action Plan. Then the next layer is Climate Leader Community Certification. And then underneath that are these 6 extra additional pieces of the puzzle, which, if I may just go to the next slide, this is kind of a little more explanation around this. What I'm very pleased to announce tonight, since I last met with you, the state has announced funding associated with becoming a climate leader community. The governor has announced a $60 million funding opportunity for municipalities. Once they get certified, then they can go into applying for up to $1 million per municipality for funding associated with energy initiatives, clean energy initiatives, the kinds of things that we've been talking about tonight. So very excited about the funding opportunity. This was the incentive we've been waiting for, and why we feel comfortable moving forward with the recommendation to bring Canton up to the community leader, climate leader community status. We got a ways to go in terms of including that in the plan. We'll get another bite at the apple on that for sure. Just kind of looking at the slide deck, the one piece, as I mentioned, that it is timely for you to consider tonight. I don't think we need a vote tonight, Mr. Chair, but just to bring it to your attention is this annual town meeting article. Just for the sake of time, if I may, I'd like to go to the next slide, which is the Specialized Stretch Energy Code itself. With your permission, Mr. Chair?
Yep, please.
Okay, so this Specialized Stretch Energy Code, Canton is the specialized code. This would bring Canton up to the next level. That's the Specialized Stretch Code. We're not going to get into any of the technical building code related language, but I have had a chance to meet with Assistant Town Administrator Kamalian, and went over the language that you see at the bottom of this, the draft article language and the process. So we discussed the the process to move this forward, subject to your approval. And I've also had a chance to, and I just will add, this language that you're seeing is draft language that the state has provided for other towns. There's about 50 towns that have gone through this so far. And so the state's helping the towns move through this, and there's a lot of technical assistance support associated with this, which is important for you to consider. The sequencing is, obviously we need the draft article language done by January 3rd. Assistant Town Administrator Kamalian advised me that this language is probably acceptable for a draft, and then this will go through Town Council and other iterations as the warrant gets approved. So probably okay with the way this reads right now. And I have met with Building Commissioner Walsh, and we've discussed this just yesterday, as a matter of fact. And he's comfortable moving forward with the plan to include on the warrant this article, subject to going through what I'll call a technical education process for himself, the building community, the contractor community, the real estate community, anybody that's interested in knowing what does this mean. What I propose, and the committee's going to vote on Thursday, is to move forward with this technical assistance plan. So we put it into the warrant as a draft article, goes through the approval process on the language. In the months between January and April, we would have these technical sessions and allow folks to ask their questions and get comfortable with what this means. If by the time April rolls around and people haven't gotten their head around this, they're not comfortable supporting this, I would recommend that the committee withdraw this article without prejudice prior to town vote. And then we would obviously have an opportunity to brief you on how things are going between January and April, and advise you that we would recommend either to go forward with the town vote or to pull it off the warrant.
So, Tom, if I may, if there's if you're putting this in as a placeholder and it may get pulled, if, during this process, people are uncomfortable with it, what is the rush in doing it now? Like, why aren't you just, let me take 2025 to get everybody to buy in and educated and understanding this, and then I'll put it in for the next annual town meeting. Why the urgency for this?
It's a good question. I think the first reaction is the $60 million that's been earmarked to fund this through the state. That's not going to last forever.
Mm-hmm.
It is a pretty new program, for sure. The number of towns that have gone through this, I mentioned earlier, about 50. There's, I think, enough understanding of what this means to be able to educate us over the next couple of months. And then what this does, Mr. Chair, is one of those 6 requirements that I was referring to earlier. It's going to take us a while to get through all 6. This being maybe perhaps arguably the highest hurdle. So I'd like to try to start doing this sooner rather than later, in order to keep us in the queue for the funding that's available associated with becoming a climate leader community. No guarantee that if we waited that money's going to be there after the fact, which is the big prize of going after this. All 6, becoming a climate leader.
Yep. So that being said, I tried to educate myself as quickly as I could over these last couple of weeks on stretch codes and looking at the pros and cons. So initially, I had concerns, have you met with the building department, and you said you met with Ed Walsh. Have you discussed the stretch codes with our Economic Development Committee and or CABI to get input on potential business impacts, because I understand that there's a long-term savings, but there's also an initial upfront cost for businesses that might want to, renovate their existing building, or, we had Organogenesis on Dan Road that has a building that is unoccupied, and there was talk of them doing some work there. The 99 on 138 right now is empty, and if somebody were to come in there. So have you talked to the Economic Development Committee, CABI, to figure out like what the business impact? So what I'm worried about is, does a company come to Canton looking to build and then finds that these stretch codes are too cost prohibitive upfront, and then they go to, the town of Norwood because it's a little bit more business friendly, because they don't have these stretch codes. So that was one concern I had.
Okay.
The other concern, I mean, obviously I'm on the chair of the Affordable Housing Trust in Canton. And what I read is that, Canton, along with other towns, are facing issues with affordable housing, and adopting these new codes could be that builders pass the increased cost on to buyers. So it makes it difficult to maintain your affordable housing with new development and stuff like that. And I read that there are towns that actually do this to deliberately control the development of their town. And you had affluent towns on the North Shore that would adopt these stretch codes to keep out affordable housing. So those are just some of the concerns I have that, I don't want to, I certainly support, all the efforts of your committee, and, I'm excited that Canton is right now, Green 1, and, but I don't want to be so excited about that I lose focus of, other projects that we're trying to do. And, we deal with this all the time, trying to make Canton affordable for our teachers, our firefighters, police officers, and, our kids that are growing up and want to get a house here.
Great. May I respond?
Yeah, please.
Okay, excellent. I talked to Mr. Walsh about that very question on the business community, and I committed to him. Absolutely, I'm a businessman myself. We take it seriously. We're going to make sure we outreach to the business community. We talked about Gene, Mr. Manning, as well as CABI, and make sure that issue that you raised is addressed. It definitely, Mr. Walsh had a similar question.
Okay.
So for sure. Regarding the Affordable Housing Trust, and I haven't heard that yet, and I will bring that back as one of the questions that we'll need to educate folks around and look into and see what the merits of that are. What I do know is that by building homes and residences that have a more energy efficient system around it, it's more affordable to maintain. And I think you mentioned that you recognize that on an earlier comment. So it's a balancing act of cost of construction and purchase versus cost to operate and maintain. Mr. Walsh raised in our meeting yesterday, he'd like to see the numbers. Of what is the incremental cost to build and what is the incremental savings associated with, going with these extra, the building, the higher building code. So I committed to him to go and get that information as well.
Okay. So, as one member, I'm certainly fine with the placeholder. I'm just concerned. It's a lot of outreach and data that we need to gather, before town meeting. And I just want to make it clear, like I wouldn't support this if we didn't have, Ed Walsh's full support and some of this information answered to the select board as one member. Any other questions for Mr. Birmingham on the stretch code? All right, next, Mr. Birmingham,
Okay,
six,
final
please.
slide, Mr. Chair, almost done. This was just a summary slide to show the budget numbers that I was referring to earlier. For FY 2026, these are the numbers I reviewed with Mr. Scollins and Mr. Duty. It's roughly 200,000. That includes if we went for 120,000 associated with the energy manager, a $50,000 MVP grant cost associated with that, and then back those out, and that's the 167 roughly that you get from those two grants. The balance would be approximately $30,000 associated with some of the cost line items I mentioned earlier. Public outreach, printing materials, kind of support for the position and the MVP 2.0 grant. And there's some committee related expenses in there. Current budget right now for the sustainability committee is $3,000 annually. So we'd ask, as I talked to you in the previous meeting, we're going to also recommend some sort of reorganization of the committee structure. And try to do some consolidation of the three committees that are currently there: Sustainability Committee, Sustainability Climate and Action Planning Committee, and then the Energy Advisory Committee. And we'll try to get those consolidated under this one budget proposal.
Okay. Any questions on number 6 for Mr. Birmingham? All right. So it's just the one action item if the board chooses to act on that tonight, right, Mr. Birmingham?
That would be just, I think, related to the stretch building code and the inclusion of that. Mr. Chair, the committee itself is going to vote on this on Thursday.
Okay.
So I would prefer sequentially to go with committee vote first and get their approval, and then bring that back to you all. I'm sorry, I don't know off the top of my head the timing of your next meeting.
I think it's the 4th.
Okay.
7th.
7th.
Okay. If you, I don't know, would it be maybe you all could vote on this subject to committee approval and
Well, let me ask my assistant town administrator to chime in on this.
Great.
So, Ms. Chameleon?
Yes, hello. Yeah, the board doesn't need to take a secondary vote so that will come later. So if you submit the article, if the committee votes on it, you submit the article before January 3rd, it will go on the warrant. The board is going to take a vote later on to approve the warrant, the final warrant. So then you wouldn't need, the board doesn't need to take a vote specifically on your warrant article.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
So I think, Mr. Chair, there's no further action tonight other than we'll stay in touch and let you know how things are progressing.
All right. I appreciate all your work on this, Tom. You're a hero for getting this all done for us.
Okay, I appreciate all your time. Thank you very much. Happy holidays.
Thanks, Tom.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right. Next on the agenda is a quick discussion on the traffic committee. So as part of this government modernization committee work that Ms. Chameleon and myself are part of, Ms. Jutras, we are looking at our bylaws and administrative codes. And it was recently pointed out to me that our traffic committee is not functioning as it was originally intended. So the traffic committee was actually a combination of two separate committees that formed years ago, but it's kind of morphed away from what these were originally intended to be. So I'm going to defer to our assistant town administrator, Jen Chameleon, just to give us a little background on that information.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, so just a little history on how the committees or the timeline of how they were formed. The original traffic committee was formed in 1996, and the purpose of that committee was to ensure safety of roads and flow of traffic. and then they functioned for 10 years or so. And then in 2004, the select board adopted a traffic policy, and it formalized the policies and procedures that the traffic committee would take when things like amending traffic rules and regulations or addressing residential traffic concerns came up. That's where the traffic concern forum that we have came from. So the policy guided that traffic committee in its actions. Then in 2015, the select board established a blue ribbon traffic committee, but the purpose of that committee was more of like a proactive approach on how to manage traffic in Canton, as opposed to reacting to residential concerns. It was the purpose that I read some minutes. It was described as collaboratively developing ideas on how to look at traffic overall. And that committee was the one where the select board members were part of, and then there was constituents from various precincts in Canton. And that was completely separate from the traffic study committee, that original traffic study committee. So they were meant to be two completely separate committees with separate purposes. And then 3 years later, for some reason, the select board decided to combine the two committees into one, and that's the current committee that we have today. So there's a little bit of, like the chairman referred to, there's a little bit of, I think, confusion maybe in what the purposes were and how they got combined.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Ms. Chameleon before we? Yep, Ms. Boyden?
Hi, Jen.
Hi.
Yeah, so Mike was telling me a little bit about this and about how the modernization committee was saying that this traffic study committee shouldn't exist, and maybe it shouldn't exist in its current form, but I think it's important to exist in some form. I thought it was way better. In 99, I think I joined traffic study because I live on a cut-through street. And I will say, as a new member of the select board, the single biggest issue that we get is traffic concerns and worries. We have grown 25% since I graduated high school 100 years ago. So now we have over almost 25,000 people in town. And yeah, we are landlocked by 95 and 128, and people have GPSs that bring them through our town when there's an incident on the highway, and people are going fast. And I know we shouldn't try to engineer every problem, and some people, as I was talking with Mike the other day, we just can't help. They live on a busy street, and it is what it is. But there are other people that I think when people come up there, so for example, people from York Street, we haven't addressed the problems there, whether it doesn't have to be engineered, I guess, but if you call it blinking traffic light engineering, then yeah, I guess it would be. But I just think we should be cognizant of what's going on in the town, and even the High Street situation. Where that crosswalk is just sucks, and it needs to be down around the corner, and whether there's blinking lights there too. I mean, I think it's good. I think we shouldn't be reactive. We should be proactive best we can. And yeah, I just hope that rather than just throwing it out, we revise it in a way that works for our community, because it's important. It's the single biggest issue, like I said, that we see in emails to our to the board.
Thank you, Ms. Boyden.
You're welcome.
So there is an online forum that already exists for residents to voice traffic concerns, and the process to resolve these should be education, then enforcement, and then engineering. So increased signage, painted crosswalks, digital speed limit signs, those are all part of the education aspect. So I suggest that the current traffic committee continues to work on the issues that are already in the queue, but to direct future traffic issues through the proper channels so issues are tracked and addressed in a uniform manner. So currently we have requests that come directly to the police department, some that come directly to the select board, and some that go to the DPW. And these should all be routed to the same location, which is the DPW. And they will address these as they come in, and then report to the select board if they need money to, add lights or something like that. So that was my suggestion that we discuss this. I would bring this to the next traffic committee meeting in January. And like I said, work on what is existing in the queue, but start to funnel future complaints through the proper channels. So, Ms. Boyden?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I just want to agree with you. It does make sense to put it all through one channel. Again, 100 years ago, not that many hundreds of years ago, but back when I got a sidewalk on this street, I stood in front of John Conley and others who were on the board at the time in around 99. But also I went to the police, and Earl Newhouse got this little traffic island on the top of the street so kids don't leave the regional and come down my street at 80 miles an hour. So I was using every facet of the town I could think of in order to make my street safer for my kids. But yeah, so it'd be nice if we could do exactly what you're saying, have it funneled through one place, unless other departments need to get involved. But I don't know how, well, I guess it's education.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it may be something that I request mitigation funds from the board to address some of the urgent issues that have come up, for safety. I mean, obviously, this is in no way saying the select board is not concerned with the safety and that we don't care about the traffic. We certainly do. We all live in town and we all see it. But I just think that it should go through the proper channels and get escalated as appropriate. Any questions for me? All right. I plan to give that message at the next traffic committee, and then I will follow up with the select board after that. All right. Next on the agenda, we have the annual license renewals, liquor license, amusement permits, entertainment permits, and Sunday entertainment permits. So I would entertain a motion that the board renew the liquor licenses, the amusement permits, entertainment permits, and Sunday entertainment permits as published on the agenda for 2025, contingent upon the payment of any outstanding fees or taxes owed to the town of Canton. So do I?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
yes, pertaining to these licenses, due to my association with the Canton Town Club, I should not be voting on the Canton Town Club's licenses.
So
So
we'll
I'd like
take
to
that
accept
one, we'll take that one separate, JR.
That
So
would be fine.
we'll do them a little bit out of order. So let me bring up my list here. All right, so I make a motion, or I would entertain a motion that the board renew the liquor license for the town club. Sorry, give me just 1 second to find it on the list, so I have it. I just had it too. The Canton Town Club Incorporated, doing business as Canton Town Club at 300 Bailey Street, Canton, Mass. 02021. So do I have a motion to approve that liquor license?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. So all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. And any abstain?
I
All right,
abstain.
Mr. McCord. So Mr. McCord is on the board for the town club, so he's going to abstain. So we'll do a roll call vote for the yeses first. So Ms. Boyden,
Yes.
Mr. Conley,
Yes, sir.
and the chair as well, and then the abstain, Mr. McCourt. Just a roll call vote on the abstain. Yes.
Yes, I abstain. Thank you.
So that passes 3-0-1. All right, so now we're going to do the rest of them because there are no other additional conflicts. So I will entertain a motion that the board renew the liquor licenses, amusement permits, entertainment permits, and Sunday entertainment permits as published on the agenda for 2025, contingent upon the payment of any outstanding fees or taxes owed to the town of Canton.
So moved, Mr.
So
Chairman.
moved. Sorry, go.
Motion has been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 And then we'll do a roll call vote. Ms. Boyden,
Yes.
Mr. Conley,
Yes.
Mr. McCourt,
Yes.
the chair as well, 4-0. All right. Next, I'll entertain a motion that the board approve the side letter for the Administrative Employee Association Union. Do I have a motion for that?
So moved. Moved.
Motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay.
I beat you to it.
All right, motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye, roll call vote. Ms. Boyden?
Yes.
Mr. Conley?
Yes.
Mr. McCourt?
Yes.
And the chair as well. I would entertain a motion that the board appoint the special heavy equipment operator for the water department, Ryan Taylor.
So moved.
Second.
Follow the same process the rest of the way, guys.
Sorry, we'll do it. Okay.
All right,
want
motion
to
has been
yell at
made
me.
and seconded. I don't care who does it, but all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye, roll call vote. Ms. Boyden?
Yes.
Mr. Conley?
Yes.
Mr. McCourt?
Yes.
And the chair as well, 4-0. I would entertain a motion that the board appoint the Circulation Services Librarian, Carolyn Elcourt.
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 A roll call vote. Ms. Boyden?
Yes.
Mr. Conley?
Yes.
Mr. McCourt?
Yes.
The chair as well, 4-0. I would entertain a motion that the board appoint the Parks and Recreation Rink Assistant, Teddy Schuman.
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 I roll call vote. Ms. Boyden?
Yes.
Mr. Conley?
Yes.
Mr. McCourt?
Yes.
The chair as well, 4-0. And entertain a motion that the board reappoint the Parks and Recreation Rink Assistant, Caitlin Tereski.
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 We'll do a roll call vote. Ms. Boyden?
Yes.
Mr. Conley?
Yes.
Mr. McCourt?
Yes.
The chair as well, 4-0. I would entertain a motion that the board approve the Walk, Bike, Hike Committee, Parks and Recreation Department, and the Canton Alliance Against Substance Abuse 4th Annual Great Canton Cleanup Day to be held Saturday, April 5th, 2025, with a rain date of April 6th, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Roll call vote. Ms. Boyden?
Yes.
Mr. Conley?
Yes.
Mr. McCourt?
Yes.
The chair as well, 4-0. I'd entertain a motion that the board accept and authorize the use of the gift in accordance with the terms thereof under Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53A, a donation of $5,000 from the Roger Winfield Scott Foundation for the Conservation Land Fund.
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Roll call vote. Ms. Boyden?
Yes.
Mr. Conley?
Yes.
Mr. McCourt?
Yes.
The chair as well, 4-0. We're flying now. I would entertain a motion that the board accept and authorize the use of the gift in accordance with the terms thereof in the Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53A, a donation of $300 from the Canton Town Club for Parks and Recreation Breakfast with Santa.
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Ms. Boyden?
Yes.
Mr. Conley?
Yes.
Mr. McCourt?
Yes.
4-0. And entertain a motion that the board accept and authorize the use of the gift in accordance with the terms thereof under Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53A, a donation of $25 from Virginia and Gregory Barati for the fire department from Virginia and Gregory Barati.
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Ms. Boyden?
Yes.
Mr. Conley?
Yes.
Mr. McCourt?
Yes.
Chair as well, 4-0. I'd entertain a motion that the board accept and authorize the use of the gift in accordance with the terms thereof under Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53A, a donation of $500 from Stephen Sandberg in honor of his mother, Thelma Sandberg, a longtime Canton resident, for the Canton Public Library to be used to purchase library materials.
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Ms. Boyden?
Yes.
Mr. Conley?
Yes.
Mr. McCourt?
Yes.
The chair as well, 4-0. Almost done. I'd entertain a motion that the board accept and authorize the use of the gift in accordance with the terms thereof under Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53 53A, a donation of $5,000 from a Simone Foundation to the Department of Elder and Human Services.
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Ms. Boyden,
Yes.
Mr. Conley,
Yes.
Mr. McCourt,
Yes.
and the chair as well, 4-0. I move that the board accept and authorize the use of the gift in accordance with the terms thereof under Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53A, the grant of $12,500 from Outfront Media for 120 Cedar Street.
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 And Ms. McCoy, sorry, Ms. Boyd, sorry, no, I was
Yes.
looking at different names. Mr. Conley,
Yes.
Mr. McCourt,
Yes.
the chair as well, 4-0. I move that I would entertain a motion that the board approve the cemetery commitments in the amount of $1,350.
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Ms. Boyden,
Yes.
Mr. Conley,
Yes.
Mr. McCourt,
Yes.
the chair as well. I'd entertain a motion that the board, 4-0. I would entertain a motion that the board approve the cemetery lot perpetual care deeds. No amount.
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Ms. Boyden,
Yes.
Mr. Conley,
Yes.
Mr. McCourt,
Yes.
the chair as well, 4-0. The vendor warrant total for the week of 12/5/2024 is $743,440.78. The payroll warrant total for the week of 12/5/24 is $3,016.28. The vendor warrant total for the week of 12/12/2024 is $2,603,187.65. And the payroll warrant total for the week of 12/12/2024 is $2,059,455.03. Next, I would entertain a motion that the board approve the minutes from the select board meetings of November 18th, 2024, November 19th, 2024, November 26th, 2024, and December 3rd, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Roll call vote. Ms. Boyden,
Yes.
Mr. Conley,
Yeah, except Mr. Chairman, on November 26th, I was not present at the meeting, so I abstained from the 26th. The other two I approve.
okay,
Thank you.
okay. And then Mr. McCourt,
Yes.
all right, and the chair as well. So November 18th, 19th, and December 3rd pass 4-0. November 26th passes 3-0-1. All right, next on the agenda, we have the town administrator update. So I would defer to Mr. Duty, our town administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a few items tonight. First, I'm sure most people have heard of heard about the near miss accident with the bus and the MBTA train at the Pine Street crossing. Just want to update folks that Superintendent Folan reached out to the MBTA to make sure that they were going to be checking the timing of those gates to make sure they were working properly and the lights were flashing. Our DPW operations manager, Billy Walsh, has also communicated with the MBTA and received a schematic design to do the striping on the road that is not presently there, that indicates where the stop line is. So those things are happening to increase the safety of that crossing. And Mr. Walsh has informed me that the contractor will be coming out tomorrow to lay out and paint the lines on Pine Street. So just want to update folks on that.
Great.
Okay.
Secondly, I want to update people with the status of the Canton Police Body Cam program. So those body cams are in operation. They've been in operation since November 1st, and the police chief tells me that all systems are working well with that. And then Pine Street winter hours. So folks who use the landfill on Pine Street. So the transfer station's winter hours will be Wednesday to Saturday. The hours are 7:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. And they're obviously closed on holidays and during bad weather. So this is weather permitting that it will be open. Pine Street stickers, so the annual renewal as of January 1st will be available at $20 per sticker for Canton residents only. You can either get that at the landfill or here at Town Hall in the bottom floor where DPW is located. And then finally, just want to let folks know that there are 465 new Eversource customers in Canton, and that they will be receiving the Canton Electricity Choice Program information, making them aware that they're opted in, and that give them the instructions if they care to opt out or choose a different level of service. So some folks in town will be receiving that information. And that is all I have.
All right. Do we have any questions for our town administrator? All right, next on the agenda, we have any announcements. So I have a couple, but I would defer to the board if anybody had any announcements they wanted to make. All right, just a couple of quick ones. So I wanted to take a quick moment to thank our Veteran Service Office, as well as Jimmy Connors and the entire cemetery crew, State Rep Bill Galvin, and all of the many volunteers this morning who helped to lay wreaths and trees at the grave sites of our deceased veterans. Special thank you to Home Depot for donating the wreaths and the trees. We had a great turnout this morning and Mother Nature cooperated, so it wasn't too cold out. I also wanted to thank all of the residents that came out and voted to have your voices heard for the new Galvin Middle School project. And a special thank you to Superintendent Derek Folan for doing a great job as chair of the GMS committee. Finally, on behalf of the Canton Select Board, we would like to wish all of our residents a happy holiday season and a peaceful new year. We will see you all again in 2025. So the Select Board will hold the next meeting on Tuesday, January 7th, 2025, 7 p.m. remotely via Zoom. So if there's nothing else, I would entertain a motion to adjourn at 8:47 p.m.
So moved.
Second,
We go.
thanks.
All right, motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, and roll call vote, Ms. Boyden,
Yes.
Mr. Conley. You're on mute, sir.
You're still muted.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes.
And Mr. McCourt, and the
Yes.
chair as well,
Yes.
4-0. So Merry Christmas and everybody, to my colleagues on the Select Board, to all our residents, and we will see you next year.
Thank you. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Bye.
Happy holidays.
Take care.
See ya.